Good morning, everybody. No. No. This is the vSphere session. Good morning, everybody. This is my people. All right. So today we're here to talk about, it's a clickbaity title, right? 10 things, blah, blah, blah. I do this every year, and I fool you guys every time because you all show up, and then you realize, yeah, this session wasn't that great, actually. No, but we've got a fantastic session this time, I promise you. All right. So 10 big new innovations in VMware vSphere that you absolutely need to know about. There is actually a ton of work that's been happening in kind of vSphere land, and I think I wish that we had this session kind of in the beginning of the event, because that kind of sets the process a little better. We can give you kind of a high-level overview and then point you to specific kind of technical deep dive sessions, especially the one that Bob and Dave did yesterday. Hopefully, many of you were there as well, listening to that. That was a pretty cool session as well. But yeah, we got a few things going on, so we'll go through and talk about what's going on with vSphere and how vSphere is relevant for you now and in the future. By the way, my name is Himanshu Singh. So I run product marketing for compute and AI. So of course, vSphere and private AI offerings, etc. And my co-presenter is Harshad Kolte, who's focused on VMware vSphere Foundation product marketing as well. And we'll kind of share the stage in terms of sharing some key updates and content with you guys. All right. Let's get this on the road. Of course, disclaimer time. So you probably have seen this by now, 10 times, 20 times or so. The key thing is, big takeaway moment for the slide. We can come here and say whatever, then we can change our mind and you cannot hold us accountable. All right? That's what this is all about. That's what the lawyers want us to say to CYA kind of thing. All right. Moving on from that, the kind of the structure of the session, right? We'll talk about what's going on in kind of the infrastructure space right now, some of those things. Talk about modernization challenges. We'll go into vSphere 8 update 3, those 10 kind of big key things that we want to highlight, and then we'll end with some resources, some next steps and those kind of things. All right. Before we do any of that, quick poll through show of hands. What solution are you guys using today? Who's using VCF today? All right, 10, 20, something like that. VMware vSphere Foundation. Okay, probably 40 of you guys, something like that. vSphere with something else, vSAN, whatever. Yeah, that's the, okay. All right, just vSphere. Good. I'm surprised, actually. It's good to see that you have at least a couple of things that you have going on, and because one of the sessions, especially I think previously, it used to be a lot more of like, I just use vSphere, that's all it is, and now I'm seeing a lot more hands that way. So that's really good to see. All right, now kind of get this conversation kind of started. Digital transformation. We've been talking about digital transformation for some time. It means different things for different people, but kind of that's where everybody's journey essentially is starting in terms of figuring out where we are, where we're trying to get to, and what that transformation kind of involves. It's a variety of different things. It's the technology, but it's also kind of looking at the processes, how we evolve skill sets and those kind of things, and also people, processes, of course, and then also kind of looking at architecture, right? One of the things is when we talk about modernizing and through the digital transformation, modernizing infrastructure and our applications, one of the key things to think about is the architecture, right? Now, I think in this event, we've talked about that whole siloed architecture a bunch of different times, right? So there's downsides to that, of course, right? Having different silos across your compute, storage, networking, like the big old kind of traditional way of how we've done things in the past. And then folks have moved to the public cloud, which is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's all kind of all together. And that has its own kind of challenges, right? Public cloud cost premiums being one thing. There's always, like pros and cons to following different types of architectural models. Everybody has to kind of think about what makes sense for you, what makes sense for specific workloads, specific sites and locations. There's performance, latency, data privacy, regulations, all sorts of factors kind of go in that help you kind of decide, what you deploy, where you deploy, how you deploy it, what's the model that you follow, right? Now, so I kind of made that point with that slide. So there are trade-offs across, no matter what you're trying to do in this particular case, right? But with the idea of like VMware Cloud Foundation, what we're trying to do here is to bring all that together, trying to give you that public cloud experience, all that unification without the complexity and the cost of public cloud, getting away from the siloed infrastructure, giving things to you in a more simplified way, giving you a lot more of the easy button. We've started on this journey as well from our perspective. We've had kind of VMware Cloud Foundation more as a bundle offerings, and we're integrating components together to make it more of a single product. So if you heard about VCF9, right, that's what that's all about. It's making sure that we're looking at VMware Cloud Foundation as one product, of course, powered by vSphere, vSAN, NSX as the individual components, but it's not a bundle, it's one product. It behaves as one product, gives you that experience of one product. Okay. Now, what powers VMware Cloud Foundation? Well, the truth of the matter is, finally, it's still all about vSphere, because this is where we are. We're here to talk about vSphere. And so vSphere powers both the VMware vSphere Foundation offering, which is targeted at optimizing your IT infrastructure. So the big delta, if you're coming from like vSphere Enterprise Plus, is you're adding operations management, advanced analytics, et cetera, capabilities. And then, of course, when you think of VCF, it's the full stack private cloud with integrated compute, storage, networking, security, management, and all that kind of available. Really unlocks a whole bunch of additional use cases. You would have heard about advanced services on top of these that are also available. Okay, so with all that kind of backdrop, let's now shift our focus to vSphere specifically. Okay, vSphere 8 Update 3, it came out a couple of months ago, and really delivers on a few key areas. We've been pretty consistent when it comes to vSphere, 8, U1, U2, U3, across these kind of 4 big areas where we're delivering value, right? One is around boosting operational efficiency. There's a ton of work that's gone into it with lifecycle management, reducing downtime, and those kind of things, and we'll talk about some of those capabilities today. The other one is to really supercharge your workload performance. If you're using some of these newer hardware accelerators, making sure that we're making all that available to you in a very seamless way so you can get the benefits of these newer use cases, newer type of workloads across AI, et cetera, et cetera. Third one is around accelerating innovation. And that's to really enable your lines of business, right? Where IT is kind of working with those lines of business and being able to collaborate better, being able to give them a lot better self-service access to infrastructure resources that they are then able to leverage and focus on kind of application logic versus having to worry about too much of how to deal with infrastructure, right? So enabling that collaboration and hence the innovation. And then the last one, which is the ever important security, how to make sure that your security posture is improved, how to make sure that you have easy information about when you're out of compliance, when you have some security issues coming up, and how you can solve those very, very quickly as well. So a lot of focus on kind of vSphere in the 8U3 release and in the recent kind of last year and the year before as well with the 8 onwards specifically. Okay. All right, before we go into the details of 8U3 and those kind of top 10 things, I want to get a little bit information about what's going on in the room, and that's this kind of quick poll. So who's using 8U3 already? That's a good number of you. I didn't expect that much, so that's awesome. Any other flavor of 8? 8.0, U1, U2? Okay. 7? Yep, as expected, majority is 7. All right, 6. We've got some brave souls here. Okay, now the big one, older than 6. There's always one. Sir, I commend you. Not for you. Was it 5.5? Of course it is 5.5. It's the best release ever, right? 5.5 was an awesome release, like no kidding. But like we've kind of moved on. It's one of those things like your high school crush, right? Once you go to college, start working, you're like, it's time to move on, man. It's just good from a nostalgia perspective. But the reason I wanted to commend you was not because you're using 5.5, but because you're willing to admit it publicly. Alrighty, very quickly moving on from that. Let's talk about what's going on in 8U3. First key feature I want to talk about is live patching for ESXi. This is awesome, seriously awesome. What we've done with 8U3, again, this is the V1 of this new feature. So just, there's a bunch of caveats and all that, and I'll share. But the idea here is you can actually update your ESXi hosts without taking downtime, without having to go through downtime. How do we do that? Well, the idea is, in this case, the host will actually, certain patches will be live patch eligible. And when you're deploying those, the host goes into like a partial maintenance mode, and then it skips kind of the VM evacuation steps, etc. And so you're able to not have to take downtime and actually be able to upgrade. Now, the benefit of that, of course, is you can deploy patches on ESXi faster. You can be more secure as soon as any kind of vulnerability is detected. Like we issue a patch, you're very quickly able to deploy those, and you're able to get like newer capabilities and features faster as well. Right now, live patch for ESXi is limited to quarterly express patches. As I said, V1 release. So we're trying to expand it as we get into the future releases. We will make sure that we are making more and more patches live patch eligible. And in the case, specific VMs and what's going on in the VM is going to determine as well if that particular VM can be live patch eligible. For example, if you've got FT enabled, that's not going to work in this particular case so far. In the future release, we will make sure that we address that caveat and make more and more of these live patch eligible. So really excited about that because I think that simplifies a lot of things. ESXi upgrades have always been one of those that if you have a large complex environment, it can drag on for months, right? I've known of people who've stuck in like a never-ending loop of ESXi upgrades. Right? You finish a whole cycle, it took you 7 months. By that time, the next one is there, and you're getting started all over again. So that's what we're trying to get out of, basically. Now, number 2, dual DPU support. So we introduced support for DPUs last year, and what we're now doing is we're able to support 2 DPUs in the single VM. Now, on the host rather. So here's the benefit of this, right? You can use it as an active. So all you're doing in this case is you're essentially doubling your offload capacity to the DPU. You can offload your, for now, network services to the DPU. You have a lot more available, capacity available on the CPU. You get the performance benefits, etc. Okay. The other thing you can do is do an active standby. So that's a failover configuration in this case. And so you can get the benefit from a high availability perspective if you're leveraging that DPU. So depending on what makes more sense for you, you have that flexibility that's available to you. Number 3, the vSphere IaaS control plane with TKG as a supervisor service. Lots of big words in there. What do they mean? So here's the thing, right? We've had kind of the Tanzu Kubernetes grid service available for some time. It worked with vSphere. The whole idea in this case is we've done a bunch of work in this space right now, in fact, especially with the 8U3 release. So one is, if you think about the vSphere, it's got something called the supervisor, which enables a variety of IaaS services to be provisioned on top of it, right? So if you look at that diagram, that's kind of what it's talking about. So you can provision use the VM service to provision virtual machines. You can use the TKG service to provision Kubernetes clusters, etc. And you're able to do that, again, just the way you typically run and manage, vSphere. It shows up in the same way, and you can manage it in the same way as well, okay? One of the interesting things, and I think we have a lot more slides coming up on this as well, is if you look on the left side, I guess, right, those 3 kind of key personas. So what we're trying to do here is to give the interface that is best suited for that particular persona. So from a admin perspective, we introduced something new called the LCI, the local consumption interface, and I'll talk about that in a second, to make that, to give the admin the easy UI that they can work with. For the DevOps teams or the platform engineers, you've got those declarative APIs you can use to really consume the infrastructure through these IaaS services. And when it comes to the developer, they don't have to worry about any of this at all. They can just focus on application logic and do not care about the underlying infrastructure, right? The other two personas are kind of focusing on that. The next one is the independent TKG service. So what's happened so far is we've had the TKG service available as a separate component. Actually, now we've integrated it into the supervisor or that IaaS control plane that you saw in the previous one. What we've also done is made it independently upgradable. So previously, what you had to do is you had to wait for the next vCenter release to come out to be able to update TKG as part of that, along with it. What that did was VC update cycles are typically much longer. We're doing something in 6 months, 9 months, et cetera, et cetera. Typically, when it comes to the Kubernetes community, they're releasing, newer upstream Kubernetes versions maybe every 3 to 4 months, right? So there was this gap in between where, especially if a security vulnerability was being patched in an upgrade, then there was a delay before you could get it. So what we're doing now is, as soon as an upstream Kubernetes is updated, we're able to take that, update our fully conformant Kubernetes service now, and update that as well, make it very quickly available to you. Very similar to how you would see that in any of the hyperscalers with the Kubernetes services that they are delivering as well, right? So you can get to new features faster, and in the case of like security vulnerabilities, you can be more secure faster as well. Okay. Number 5 is the LCI and CCI. So let's talk about what these are, right? So what we've done now is created this new UI that gives a really nice, clean vSphere-like interface for the admins to interact with, to be able to make sure that they're creating these services and provisioning these services to make the underlying infrastructure resources, compute, storage, networking, et cetera, to the platform engineering teams, et cetera. So now there's 2 parts to this screen if you're looking at. So you can set configuration, et cetera, like you normally do with when you're setting up a VM, for example. At the same time, what the interface does, it generates a YAML code right on the right side of it, and that code then is easily portable. It can be shared and leveraged by the platform engineers, for example, in some cases developers as well, and then they can take that, use it in other places, so it's very portable. They can also very easily make changes over there as well. If you're comfortable with YAML, of course, go for it. No problem. It's not, it looks, I think, different than what we're normally used to, but it's pretty simple because very declarative, and it's easy to make config changes, et cetera, as well. So the idea is it does that translation, for you essentially, for what IT admins are more comfortable with versus what more platform engineers or DevOps teams are more comfortable with. Okay. So that's kind of the LCI. Now the LCI, the local consumption interface, is part of the vCenter UI. So it's available as part of VMware vSphere Foundation. Okay. The other one is CCI, the cloud consumption interface. That's actually been available for a little bit of more time, but I wanted to highlight it because that's only available as part of VMware Cloud Foundation, because it does require both vSphere and VCF automation, used to be called ARIA automation, together. So the UI is enabled through ARIA automation. It's going to take me some time, VCF automation, and give you this really nice interface that you can provision, your infrastructure services, all these IaaS services we talked about, and then also like application blueprints and anything from your global catalog, and really, be able to kind of manage that. So that's a, the kind of a full-scale offering, but we wanted to make sure that folks who are using vSphere Foundation, et cetera, are still able to get that nice local consumption interface, that UI as well for the IT admin. All right. Next one is Kubernetes auto-scaling and stretched cluster support. So typically, when it comes to managing virtual machines, we've done a good job when it comes to being able to kind of look at the performance, look at how resources are being allocated to it, do scaling when, for example, additional resources are needed for that particular workload that's running in that VM, and you have easy availability of tools as well as automation to be able to do that. We're bringing that same kind of concept of ensuring performance to Kubernetes clusters as well. And the idea is, in this case, is hey, as you need your workload needs more resources, that if you have nodes that have kind of more demand, for example, you can easily scale up. When you have underutilized nodes, you can easily scale down. So you're really optimizing the use of your resources and making sure that if you have a bunch of underutilized nodes, that's not taking up resources from something else, for example. All right, with that, we'll switch to number 7. I'm going to have Harshad come over and take you through the next few kind of key capabilities.
Hello. Hello.
There we go, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Himanshu. My name is Harshad Kolte. I'm Product Line Marketing Manager for vSphere Foundation. Also part of vSphere core team, and he's my boss. So, make sure we do a good job here. All right, so continuing on number 7, heterogeneous vGPU heterogeneous profiles. But before that, I'll talk a little bit about GPU enhancements in general. Right? We have done a good job in vSphere as far as being able to provide you the mechanism to leverage these hardware accelerators so that you can, for your AI ML workloads, you can still use the GPU resources. We introduced support for those physical GPUs, starting from back in 7.0 time frame. Then we added the capability of then virtualizing them, like the same thing that we do for virtual machines. Now we can virtualize those GPU resources, slice them up. Then we took the next step, scaled it up, so that for one VM you could go and scale up to 16 vGPUs. All in the interest of what? The GPU resources are expensive. You are paying for them. So how do we squeeze the most out of that? So that's how we scaled up your workloads with vGPUs. The next step we took after that was introduce something called vGPU profiles. These were like NVIDIA with NVIDIA. And what you did with those is that you could then assign workloads to it. Right? The profiles were a description for your workloads. You could have VDI workloads, traditional workloads, and then assign them to the GPUs. Okay. So that was introduced back in 8U1, 8U2 time frame with vGPU profiles. The step forward for that was, and this kind of shows where we were back at 8U2 time frame. There was a restriction that those GPU profiles had to be of the same size. Well, like a VDI workload and a machine learning workload may not have the same requirement. So if you really wanted to make the most out of your GPUs, you couldn't really share that GPU because of the memory requirement. So the step forward in 8U3 is that now you can mix and match. So the heterogeneous profiles is that they have removed the limitation of those memory sizes. So like this slide shows, you can have an ML application which has got certain memory requirement. The compute application now, 8U2, you could share that GPU, but for the graphics application now it has a different requirement. You can still use that with the vGPU heterogeneous profiles support. So again, trying to make the most out of your GPU resources, maximize your ROI. The second piece of it is introduction of media engines. So this is, I think, specific to NVIDIA GPUs. They expose something called the media engine. Basically, this is targeted towards video accelerators and video rendering type of applications. So we are exposing that with this release. And the other thing with the media engine is that you can, and I think the higher end NVIDIA GPUs can support up to 2 media engines. But the extension of that is that now you can assign that media engine to the vGPU profile, so that now you maximize again all the way through the media engine and leverage that capability. I think this is specific to NVIDIA GPUs. So again, going back to why we did this, maximize your ROI, make sure your ML workloads can utilize this. This kind of goes to the performance bucket, the previous feature. On the security front, I know we don't cover this enough, and the show of hands showed that you guys are at 5.5 and all the way across. We take security for granted. So before I talk about this, we take security for granted, but vSphere as a platform has been delivering security to you as a platform feature for ages. Whether it was encryption, VM sandboxes, fault tolerance, like different elements of security, vMotion, encrypted vMotion. So we do take it for granted, but don't forget all of those capabilities are built in. We provide a secure by default platform. All of the settings by default that are in your releases have all of those settings turned on, the best practices turned on. Specific to the features, here is an identity federation. This is table stakes, I think, for any infrastructure, but this kind of shows what we have added in the past from 7.2 perspective. It shows the regular multi-factor authentication support and how it works there. You don't have to go, you're redirected to an IDP from vCenter so that authentication is done outside of vCenter, and we have been adding support for more and more IDPs since 7.2. I think we started with I think ADFS, then we added support for Okta. In 8U2 we added support for Azure, so Entra ID. The latest addition to that is ping federate. I hear from talking to people at the VMware booth that ping federate is also seems to be gaining popularity. So we have added that, and we continue to add more and more of this. And also internally within our products as well, right? With we're not talking about that in this session, but with something that's the single sign-on capability, whether it's for vSphere Foundation or for VVF or VCF, we use this internally as well. So I'll pause at number 8 and want to just get an idea. Again, so you talked about your different product versions and products and versions, but from a IT admin requirements, which just to get an idea of what's most important to you, with a show of hands probably. So when it comes to managing your IT infrastructure, how important is high availability? Troubleshooting, monitoring, majority of them, awesome. Consistent management of VMs, containers, Kubernetes clusters, all of them together. Few hands, so like the IaaS services type of stuff, okay. Security and data protection, I expect most folks, awesome, all right, great. And capacity planning and management, still, well, I'm glad to see that, awesome. So that's a great lead in, because as I introduce myself, I am responsible for vSphere Foundation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before that, when Himanshu asked the question of who is at 5.5 and somebody raised that, right? Well, high school crush and all that. Going all the way to 8 seems like you're in a marriage now. And I myself am married for about 24 years. And next year is my 25-year anniversary. We are actually considering coming to Vegas to renew your vows. And I'm thinking that the step forward for you guys who are at vSphere Enterprise 3, Enterprise Plus, going forward to VVF is like renewing your vows. So think about that, just think about it, okay, all right. So with that, I will introduce vSphere Foundation. So vSphere Enterprise Plus, right, for most of the folks who are at this point where you are on vSphere Enterprise Plus and you're thinking, okay, Broadcom has done this SKU reduction, what am I going to choose next? Am I going to choose vSphere Foundation for my use cases? Or am I going to go all the way full stack to VCF? And the previous poll kind of showed you, that if operations management is one of the top one that I asked for. So I think vSphere Foundation is an example of how that can fit you, right? So earlier Himanshu showed a slide on VCF and the kind of the architecture diagram there of all of the components that are part of it. What are the use cases that it supports and where it's targeted. So vSphere Foundation. So I know that some folks said that they are already on vSphere Foundation. Does everybody know what vSphere Foundation is? Some hands like so some sessions have been successful. So vSphere Foundation and the slide showed it, right, is the vSphere core platform. So kind of that bottom layer there, targeting the compute and storage. But on top of that, to handle operations, we have added intelligent operations and analytics, which is coming from the ARIA standard suite. Formerly, it was ARIA operations and ARIA operations for logs, or the new name for it, VCF operations, which is both VCF operations and logs. And it brings a lot of those capabilities. I'll have a small demo to show related to that, but I'll mention this, right? When it comes to intelligent operations and analytics, you're looking at it from 3 or 4 main lenses. From observability standpoint, what is my system, monitoring it, troubleshooting it. You're looking at it from cost and capacity, that's why I asked the question. From more and more diagnostics capabilities, resource management, all of those. And so that's built into the intelligent operations and advanced analytics piece of it. To extend the capabilities of that and address some of the use cases for HCI, a little bit of vSAN is a part of vSphere Foundation. It's enough for you to just kick the tires with, play around with it. But for any serious deployment, you need vSAN. If you are targeting HCI use cases, you want to have the vSAN add-on. It's an add-on. Yes, it's an add-on for it, but it's available with vSphere Foundation. And for the other use cases, right, from a security standpoint, ransomware recovery, disaster recovery, all of that is available through the live recovery add-on. Now, this is the same add-on which is available with vSphere Foundation as well as with Cloud Foundation. And same thing with the load balancer from network load balancing capabilities. So that is also available with vSphere Foundation. As the diagram also shows, it's targeted toward on-premises. You heard in the main session from Hawk that how we are focusing on kind of this repatriation use cases and targeting the on-premises private cloud. vSphere Foundation is a great fit for that. It's targeted towards that. And some of the use cases also, right, from accelerated innovation, all of the IaaS capabilities that we have added in vSphere are consumable through vSphere Foundation, so that DevOps use case to enable those, give them access to all of these services in an easy fashion, be able to help you on your modernization journey. With costs and capacity management in vSphere Foundation, you can make sure that you get predictability of costs and you can plan for that, as well as resistance and from a sustainability perspective. With that, I'm going to talk about one of the key features that's brought in. I spoke about it yesterday in the VVF targeted session as well, but this is an extension of what you're going to do, right? Like I said, renewing your vows, going from vSphere Enterprise to VVF. One of the things where this shines most is in the console experience. There's a demo. So before that, and what does it target? So all aspects of operations management, everything that you can think of, from initial deployment, planning for that upgrade, then going through monitoring it on a day-to-day basis, and then planning for the future from all aspects, again, from license management, certificate management, cost and capacity management. All of that now is exposed in a single place. Also, I mentioned that, it seemed when we did the first launch of VVF 6 months ago, it's a bundle of SKUs. We have always had vSphere. We have had ARIA operations in the past. And it seemed like people had the impression that, VVF, it's just these two things together. Well, it's more than that. It's an integrated product. And this feature is kind of where it kind of comes together. Single place. Because we used to have these different components. Sign-on was in a place, diagnostics was in different places, monitoring was in vCenter UI and ARIA. Now all of that has come together in a single place. And that's the console. With that, I'm going to jump into the demo. All right. So this starting screenshot shows of how this looks like. This is from the UI perspective, it's called out ARIA operations. It will be soon called VCF operations. But the console looks like this. And what it has if you look at it in the beginning, this is the overview page for it. As this kicks off. Yeah, and you can see all of your vCenter instances here. VCF instances, VVF instances, anything that you have brought in from a data source integrated from perspective, you'll be able to see all of that. You can also have like that Google map view kind of shows where your instances are actually located, where are your deployments physically located, and you can also manage them at that level, at the regional level. You can expand it and look at it. The other thing is global inventory. For all of your vSphere instances, VCF instances, you can see how many of the domains are there, workload domains, where are these data centers, and all of the resources related to that. So that's the global inventory section of that. The second is now this is pulling in information from Skyline Health, and from vSphere. All of the diagnostics information, those are in one place. That's the findings section. As well as from a compliance and security perspective, configuration, you can detect the configuration drift and show how many of your instances are compliant, what are the actions you need to take to remediate that. The other one was on certificates. So all of your certificates and licenses can be seen in one place. Below that is a section on workload operations. So this is focused on operations from a capacity perspective. All of the elements of capacity. What's your current capacity? How much memory are you using? How much disk space you are using? Whether you are going to run out of capacity, and if you are going to run out of capacity, an idea of when you are going to run out of time. That's shown on that. From a monitoring and alerts perspective, your last week or last 2 weeks or last month's alert trend is shown there with what are critical alerts, what are the things that you need to dive into. And finally, an idea of your total cost of ownership, which is all on this right-hand side. You also get a idea of your sustainability green scores. If you are monitoring that, all organizations are focusing on sustainability. You can get a summary of that. Now, this is all coming from the ARIA operations as a component. From a compliance perspective, right, out of the box with the compliance packs that are part of ARIA and VVF, you can run compliance against FISMA, HIPAA, and those types of standards. The second area of this is the launchpad. So the overview section showed you everything, a snapshot of your entire health of your system. But from doing any further activity, you can go to the launchpad. And as I said, there are 5 main pillars of operations management, which are those, right? Observability, capacity, cost, compliance, and security. And this is the place where you can start drilling down into each of these. Right? From an observability perspective, you can do all of the monitoring, troubleshooting, and the demo actually goes inside there and shows it. You can look at it from alerts, from diagnostics, and then take some remediating action on it. The second piece of it is, and this kind of shows you can have reports, troubleshooting workbench. I did this in the demo, so if you get a chance, go and look at the on-demand version of this. I showed a demo of the troubleshooting workbench, so how we can help you with diagnostics as well as being able to isolate issues. The second piece of it is going to be on capacity management, right? I know some folks raise their hands right here for capacity management. Budget cycles are important. They start off a long time in advance, right? And for many organizations, your budgets are already fixed 12, 18 months ahead of schedule, and then you find yourself in the middle of your fiscal year, fiscal quarter, and you have to figure out where I'm going to get the rest of my capacity. You can run them through capacity workflows inside the application. The demo kind of fast forwarded through that, but from cost and capacity, you can assess your capacity. You can do reclamation workflows to find idle powered off VMs, snapshots, the orphan disks, and so on. You can do right sizing of VMs. If you have under provisioned them, you can increase their size. If you have over provisioned them, you can reduce the size and take those actions so that you are making the most out of those. You can also do something called workload planning with what if scenarios, which is basically going into running scenarios. If you have to add workloads, you can specify the configurations of that and see, first of all, if that workload fits, and if it fits, how much it's going to cost you more. So it gives a holistic view of how to do capacity and workload planning for the future. Final thing I already mentioned about the sustainability scores, but basically the idea I want to just convey across is VVF is now an integrated product. With that console, you can take your operations management, which is really the delta between vSphere Enterprise and VVF, and VVF could be the solution for you to go forward as your next step. With that, I think enough. Oh yeah. So just as a summary, right? From all of the features, we highlighted like 7, 8 of them here in the session. But along all of our capability pillars, we talked about live patching. There are additional features for image customization. We took the concept of configuration profiles and extended that. There are capabilities from a DPU perspective, not exposed in vSphere Foundation, but exposed in Cloud Foundation. DPU support, Himanshu referred to it, a lot of emphasis on all of the IaaS capabilities. Security I covered, but more details, there are tons of features that you can leverage. And with that, I'm going to call Himanshu back for the summary.
All right, and before you exit the stage, let's take a quick selfie with this audience because you guys are so awesome. I don't even know if we can fit everybody in a single shot. We might have to take like 2. Yeah, see, this room is like awesome, man. All right, let's do this. We'll take one this way, and then get everybody.
Ooh.
All right, one this way.
Oh, man.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it back over to Himanshi.
Yeah, so as Harsha's talking about, right, there's a ton of capabilities in 8 Update 3. Obviously, we only scratched the surface here. There's just no way for any single session at the event to be able to give you like a great overview, but we have tons of resources available for you, on the website and in other places to kind of talk to it. Maybe I'll go to this one first. Yeah, so you can go to vSphere.com. You'll find resources there that are useful for the technical subject matter expert, and also for if you want to share with like an exec or someone with more high-level kind of capabilities. You can learn about vSphere Foundation, and you can learn about all the differences between, let's say, specific versions of vSphere, wherever you are. If you're on 7 and you're considering like 8U3, hey, what's the exact delta? What am I really getting when I go from 7 to 8U3, for example, or from like any version for that matter, right? And of course, you can talk to us on X and on LinkedIn as well through the VMware vSphere handles and the VCF handle. I'll remind you guys, please take the survey. At the end of this, you should get that pop up in your app, and that really helps us to figure out, hey, what's working, what's not working in the session. That feedback helps us to make this better for you. At the end of the day, we're here for you. We're here to make this a good experience for you, give the information that you really care about, and make sure that we have a successful session. So with that, thank you so much. Have a great rest of Explore 2024. Thank you.